Okay, y'all, figuring it out. There we go. Hey there. All right, we are live for the very first time. Thanks for coming in, y'all. We are broadcasting live from the Garden District. I'm Andrew with Free Tours by Foot New Orleans. This is a brand new thing for us. We are trying this out for the first time, but it's a little bit of a rewind back to something that we've done before. Hey, Indiana. Oh, I see some familiar names. What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. Lovely to see. Yes, please keep shouting out. Look at all the cold places where y'all are stuck. Well, as you can see, it is nice and warm here. I'm going to switch around pretty soon to where you can see the world instead of my face. I just wanted to give y'all a quick once-over of what everything's about. It is a beautiful spring day out here, and we are Palm Springs. All right, you got it good. We're willing to just share the neighborhood with you in these pretty nice times that we're lucky enough to have this time of the year. Y'all are trying to escape the cold. I see that. Saskatchewan, Iowa with the emoji just to make sure I know. Colorado. Oh, from all over. Thanks, y'all. We have, there's two of us actually tuning in from New Orleans today. I got my partner Jeff here with me. What's up, Jeff? Jeff's been along for the ride a few times, but hasn't gotten to show his face just yet, nor quite show his face fully today. Yeah, y'all, so those of you who've seen these videos before, you may already be aware that first and foremost, Free Tours by Foot is a, J.E., what's up? Hi, thanks for tuning in. We've mostly been a in-person walking tour company, and this switch to making videos was a big pivot for us during quarantine. After the world blew up, we just kind of had to do something different, but our thing is being around people live and, you know, answering questions. And so this seems like a natural development so we can do both. Hi, Herman. Thanks for checking it out. Nice to have you on board. And yeah, thanks to all of you for being along for this experiment. This being a new thing for us, we're really eager to hear how you think it goes. And as we explore the Garden District today, please feel free to chime in with your questions, your thoughts. Bear in mind, I am on a little bit of a delay. So you're hearing things a few seconds after I say them, and I'm seeing them a few seconds after you type them. And so definitely, if you say something and I'm sort of seeming to walk by the thing you're asking about, don't worry. I'm going to see it momentarily, and we will get your question answered. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for sticking with us. Really appreciate that. West Palm Beach. I used to do a trip there every winter, and it was a nice place to be in the winter. So, Garden District, guys, this is a great time of the year here. There's a ton to see. I'm going to start bringing y'all through it so we can see some things. We're just going to do a little sample of it today, so something like 45 minutes to an hour, and we'll see how much battery we have and how many questions that y'all have got. And we'll focus for this time around on just stuff to see. If y'all have seen our previous Garden District video, then you'll know this is a neighborhood that is one of the kind of early adjustments. Whoa, someone's with us. Someone's with us who's on the block. Hello, Brock. Thanks for tuning in right after spotting us in the wild. So this is a neighborhood that a lot of early Americans came to in New Orleans when this place was new to being America, and it's known for its big mansions. It's also known for some of its celebrity residents. We'll get into just a little bit of that today. And of course, based on the name, Montana. All right. Brazil. Okay. Hopefully nice and warm down there. We have the gardens that are the namesake of the neighborhood. And you can see a little bit of it as we go by, but I'm going to flip things around now. If y'all want me to answer a lengthier question, I may flip back to facing me again, but for the moment, let's share with you this beautiful place. So we are walking along St. Charles Avenue. This is one border of the Garden District. This is where our famous streetcar goes along. We might get to glimpse it, actually. There we go in the distance. One on its way towards us, so I'll be sure to turn and face that as it's coming closer. But this is where you would arrive if you were coming up here from the French Quarter. That's the sound of the streetcar behind us. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but here she comes. This is a moving National Historic Monument. There has been A streetcar on this route going back to the 1830s. It's the oldest surviving thing in this part of town. Teresa, awesome. I don't know if this neighborhood is part of your family turf, but chances are we've done a video of it one way or another, so maybe we'll show you some familiar ground. For a starter, y'all, said mansions are a big deal out here, and here we go. St. Charles Avenue does not disappoint. This is a particularly famous one. It's got a plaque in front of it which talks about kind of everything but what you're likeliest to know it for, which, at least if you're of my generation, is the fact that the real world New Orleans shot here. This is one of the very early things in the genre of reality shows, and it was called the Belfort Mansion back then, so you would have seen the word Belfort across the front of it. But it speaks really nicely both to like the classical style that the neighborhood is all about, all of these Ionic columns, but also the atmosphere of this block. So you're seeing buildings on either side. We got this guy over there. We've got this guy over here. To get really back into the roots of the Garden District, you gotta imagine just this house and then green space reaching all the way to the end of the block. It was downright rural. And that was where the name the Garden District came from, is that you had these huge green spaces, which over time got sold. And so they didn't necessarily remain, it didn't keep the reason why it got the name in the first place. Sicilian ancestry, yes. And that's all over Louisiana. It's one of the ones people don't properly appreciate. And Rachel, that's awesome. Witching Hour, man, you are dedicated. All 1,000 pages of it. Good job. I won't be getting all the way over to the house that is the basis for the Mayfair Mansion, but we will be passing by a different Anne Rice house, so we will get you a little bit of her flavor. So there's something about these gardens, y'all, that also really grabs onto the social atmosphere of the neighborhood, is that you can see them, but you can't set foot in them. So they are visually public, but functionally private. That's pretty different from the French Quarter. Quick pause here, y'all. So, like I said, it's a beautiful neighborhood all year round, and we are passing by a southern magnolia tree. These guys are gonna be opening up a little further along into the spring and turning into these massive white flowers, which are our state flower. Really nice, subtle aroma to those. So this is a little bit, this isn't even visually public. The gardens were partly a means of ostentation. So obviously these are houses of pretty wealthy people. And so, Lasher, Carlos, you are all the way in. Very proud of you. This is, y'all, if you don't know Anne Rice well, we'll be talking about her a little later, but the Mayfair Witches trilogy, she's best known for vampire literature, but the Mayfair Witches books are a trilogy about witches. If you've seen American Horror Story Coven, definitely an homage to this thing. But they are long, long, long books. Anne Rice had time. So the gardens you're seeing, these are the subtler ones, and we're working our way towards one of my favorites that's pretty huge. Teresa, thank you. That is really sweet of you. I didn't mention, y'all, if you want to treat this like a tour that you would do in person and tip your guide, you are welcome to. And I promise we'll point out, I'll point out a flower every time. Roses for you, Teresa, thank you. So, up ahead, we're going to get by one of the most famous mansions, as well as one of my favorite gardens in the neighborhood. But this is different from the French Quarter in that when you look at French Quarter houses, they're flush up against the street. You almost can't even tell where the door is a lot of the time. Camellia bushes, these are past their season right now, but we still got a few hanging on. These are really lovely and like end of winter, beginning of spring. So in the French Quarter, the outdoor space is hidden. You don't even really know it's there when you're walking through the streets, so you don't know what you're missing out on. Whereas in the Garden District, you know what you're missing out on. Like, it is conspicuously unavailable to you. And this one over here is going to be a great example. There's a lot to see, but it is fenced all along the block, matching fence throughout, so you are admiring the thing that is keeping you away from these lovely plants. Here we go. Lots of climbing roses. This is a great time of the year for roses. JE, awesome. If you're driving down, let me know. Hope to see you. So this, y'all might remember if you saw our first video, is Colonel Short's villa. We shot a video detailing the history of this house way, way back in the summer of last year. And it has really come out since then. Nice, they got a peach tree coming in. So there is a ton to see here right now, and if y'all want to get the history of the house, then you can get it in some detail from that first video we made in the Garden District. It's a pretty typical Garden District house. Usually, more often than anything, what you're going to see is a two-story house like this with a gallery on both floors and a hallway off to the side. So that is the most common layout, and the doors too are really ostentatious. So this is like really declaring where the family comes and goes every day. Thank you, Jean or Jeannie. I don't want to assume how to say your name either way. That's kind of you. I know everybody, it's been a crazy year for all of us in tourism in New Orleans. So complete sympathy to that position. And the house is also famous, y'all, for the plant motifs along the fence. So this is known for its cornstalk fence. Herman, yeah, they do. These are like, so prominent in a sense. You kind of got to belong to certain industries to be able to afford this stuff. And I would actually say the through line of Garden District history is that it's almost always been inhabited by pretty recent arrivals. The fact that it's known for celebrities these days is a piece of that, but also, you know, these people, so like this guy, for example, Colonel Robert Short, who this is named for, he was a Kentuckian, and he was about as close to home as anybody came from. By and large, these folks were from like New York, Virginia, England, a lot of them. So they were coming from a long way off, and they were coming either because they already had a lot of money or they were gonna make some money once they got here. Miss Malia, that is so kind of you. I'm really glad these have been helpful to you. They have saved me too. Starting giving tours again after a year of not doing so, it would have been wacky. So climbing roses for you, and let's see if we can give you, you know what we're gonna give you? We're gonna give you some climbing beans. This is one of my favorite things about this fence, is it shows you corn, but you actually can see little blossoms on bean vines all up this. So it's a Native American cultivation method using the corn as a trellis to grow beans and use space really efficiently. So hope you like a little plant surprise. The whole theme of this fence design actually is like kind of plenty. Hi, Carla. Hey, Jody. Yeah, I don't know what my tour schedule is for August yet, but just get in touch with Free Tours by Foot New Orleans and they will be able to hook you up. If it's not going to be me, it'll be someone else. And you know, it's me doing these is not because I'm like the best and brightest. It's because I'm the one with a camera and who's spent time on it. So I'd love to meet you, but if I'm not around, then other folks can too. Carlos, really sweet of you. Thank you so much. And I can't wait for y'all to get here too. It's going to be fun doing this with you in person when the time comes. Oh, good. I'm always a little worried. I never want to assume that I got it right, but I'm glad I stuck the landing. Oh, Carla, thank you. Thank you very much. This is a great day, y'all. Y'all are making my evening. Can't see how big I'm smiling right now, but I promise it's there. So the theme all up here is bounty. Same kind of bounty that y'all are swinging out right now. We got our sunflowers, we got our wheat, and you got a whole little cornucopia up there. The origin of the fence pattern is a little bit of a mystery. I know I'm being a ham. Y'all, we have some of the other Free Tours by Foot staff here who might chime in if we have any like technical difficulties or anything, but so far, all going golden. So a lot of stories about how that cornstalk fence came to be on there, whether it was because it's the most expensive pattern in the catalog, or whether the wife of Colonel Short missed Iowa and wanted some corn around her. Jody, yes, absolutely. We're working up a cocktail tour. We're not quite sure when we'll be able to do it yet, but one of these days soon, when we can get into bars and have a little bit more close contact with the beverage making process. We really want to show y'all how it works. And this is, speaking of newcomers to town, this is a bed and breakfast. So this welcomes newcomers on a daily basis. Thank you, Carla. Yeah, we got Brazil in the house today. Oh, and speaking of celebrities, goodness, little horror moment for y'all. Hope you don't mind. Michael, awesome. Thank you so much. Here's a giant flower for you. I don't know the story behind this piece of art, but you get a sunflower from a very eager friend. There is, Eleanor. Yeah, there is a cornstalk fence. It's on Royal Street in the French Quarter. That's the main other place you see it, the other one that's really original. The house you see here, guys, this is a kind of not historical detail, but you can see it's in 4 different colors, a tan, a olive green, a dark green, and a dark red. And they've got this Range Rover over there these days. It's, oh, Kyle, our growing zone is 9B. I do know that off the top of my head. Cultivating a lot of seeds right now. So before they had that car, they had a Fiat that was detailed in exactly that color scheme. And it took you always a few times to notice it. It was subtle, but once you did, really just so, it made me wonder if people used to do that with carriages. Did you match a carriage to your house at one time? This is a great one for showing y'all how good we are at faking historicity. So this was an empty lot a couple of years ago, and it's even got the outbuildings. Outbuildings are a real signature of the land around here, but this is a completely retro historicized kind of a 1840s-ish looking house that was finished last year. And then, for the real historical deal, y'all, this is the Briggs Staub House, and it is a really unusual example of Gothic revival design. Y'all can see that those pointed arches all over it, and they do a beautiful job with their yard, although it's not the most florid. And you can just see back there the peak of a roof. That's their outbuilding. And outbuildings are a collective name for lots of different things. So those are going to describe your carriage houses, your stables, and then servant and slave quarters. And it's often hard to tell from looking which one is which, but a slave quarters is a very common thing to see in the French Quarter, and a little bit more unusual up here because many people, like the fellow for whom that house was built, even before the Civil War, opted to have the work in their house done not by enslaved people, but by domestic servants. So it's a mixed bag up here, and that often meant Irish or German immigrants. And a lot of people's families here are descended from that kind of day labor. There we go. I missed that walking through earlier, y'all. Teresa, I do. It's so that Free Tours by Foot has one. I believe Free Tours by Foot New Orleans has a separate one, so you should look for those. And then I post a lot of plant pictures on mine, Andrew_D_Farrier. So thanks for looking for us. These are hitching posts, y'all. More places to tie up horses than you would ever need for a single house. This is our British invasion corner. So this house, the Briggs Staub house that we just saw, and this one across the way were all built either for Brits or for, in one case, a fellow with British parents. That's this guy. And actually, there's kind of a moment happening here right now. So you can see across the way there are some paint samples on this. They are thinking about repainting. And this house just changed hands back in October, which is super appropriate to this place's history. This is kind of my favorite house in the neighborhood from the point of view of the changing of hands over time. It's had some really interesting variety of owners. And these ones actually, before they've even done their painting, they did one other really significant change to the grounds, which I'll actually take you on a walk around the corner to demonstrate what that's all about. So this is one of the biggest houses in the neighborhood. This is upwards of 11,000 square feet. It's 3 stories, so it was one of the tallest ones when it was built. The tallest when it first went up, mid-19th century. And originally it's owned by this coffee dealer and then finds its way into the hands of various well-positioned families. But in the 1920s, it's bought by the Redemptorists, the Order of Catholic Priests. And they actually use it as a retirement home for priests. And you could also go to Mass here for about half a century. And a lot of the Catholics in the neighborhood do, or did. Herman, I'm just seeing your question now about Hurricane Katrina. So this area fared pretty well during Hurricane Katrina. We're on high ground, which in New Orleans, you're on high ground when you're close to the Mississippi. And the Mississippi is a little bit behind us right now, just outside of the Garden District, a few blocks. And so high ground here gives us the advantage of when water does fill up the city, the bowl-shaped city that we live in, this is the last place that it's going to hit. So we didn't have floods in the area, but definitely wind damage was a concern. And of course, all throughout the city, you're looking at the huge human cost of the city just not being able to function during that time. So even these houses would have been empty, would have been searched, might have had people who had real health crises because of lack of power, things like that. Oh, Joanne, thank you. A math tutor, no less. Someone's working hard. Really appreciate this, y'all. I know everybody's working hard now and everybody's fighting their own fight. So this kindness is really, really appreciated. Carla, if you're on a streetcar, you're passing along one edge of it. But that said, you wouldn't necessarily know. There's a lot of stuff that looks like the Garden District where the houses are just a little bit younger. They're late 19th instead of like mid 19th century houses. But as far as just kind of grandioseness, there's still a lot to see and appreciate. So I would say ride the streetcar, not just to the Garden District, but beyond it, almost the full length of St. Charles Avenue. I wanted to show y'all this. So y'all can maybe read on this gazebo, Our Mother of Perpetual Help. So that was the name of the house that we just saw when it was functioning as a home for priests and as a chapel in and of itself. So this used to stand on those grounds. And, you know, it being removed was a real surprise because there was a previous change of ownership there that one would have expected maybe to be the time when that would have happened. And that was when the Redemptorist Order of Catholic Priests sold it to Anne Rice. And Anne Rice, being mostly known as a vampire novelist, had a connection to the place for sure, but it was a personal one, not one that necessarily other people would have understood very well. She had gone to Mass there, her mother had gone to school there, and there was, Teresa, thank you. St. John Cemetery, is it possibly St. Louis Cemetery? And if so, we can't do a video in that one because the Catholic Church does not allow videoing in their cemeteries. But there's a St. Joseph Cemetery in town, various possibilities of what that could be, but definitely those are, the ideal place to go looking for your family. So thank you very much, Teresa, really appreciate it. So what went in place for these new owners of that gazebo was this guy. That is brand new, this play place over here. And what they passed it off to was was the Danish consulate, which is the building right back there where it is now located. So that is very recent news. I don't know the story there yet, why the Danish consulate was eager to take it off their hands. But for whatever reason, that pass off has taken place. So this house is already looking a little different. So Anne Rice coming into the ownership of this, y'all, was a bit of a scandal in the neighborhood. She bought it from the priest. They sold it willingly. Hunter, thank you. So appreciate that. And thank you for watching them, sir or madam or other number 65. I'm not going to presume to pronounce that username. I wish I had more flowers to show y'all right now, but here's some late camellia buds coming in. Here's potential for the future. And here's a magnolia still being helped to stand up. We've got the jasmine is what's about to come into bloom here soon. So we're not passing much of that so far, but you can begin to smell it. And if you're ever here in April into early May, it is a really fragrant time. So thank you, Teresa. Glad I can keep you entertained. So Anne Rice getting her hands on a house that the Catholic Church used to own, basically made a very big deal of for a bit, but she wrote a book and set it there, sold it to some other folks, and then it got sold to Nicolas Cage, and that was brief. So now, in whole new hands. This one, y'all, this is one that's worthy of note for you guys because it sounds like a lot of folks are interested in seeing these houses up closer. And this one is one you can actually venture inside of. So it is, hey, someone has been kind enough to stop driving so that we could get a continuous view of it. Oh, people are so good. So this one is owned by the New Orleans Women's Opera Guild, and this is an organization that exists to financially support the New Orleans Opera. And the owners of this house were a couple, one of whom was a singer and a lover of opera, and passed this off in their will on the condition that it remain furnished as it was when they passed away. So it remains a sort of historical space now. They've got this statue that they added of Madame Butterfly. She has branches right up in her face. And it's also an event venue, so weddings and such are held here pretty regularly. But should you end up here outside of the quarantines and you want to see the inside of one of these houses, then you can check this one out inside on Mondays. Usually they do tours on the hour for much of the day. And there's some other great houses like it too, where if you were to go a little further up, if you did that St. Charles streetcar ride and keep going to check out some of the houses further along the route, you would be able to go inside of Ladder Memorial Library. Same kind of situation. It's an incredible early 20th century house, massive, takes up a whole block. And the couple that owned it left it to the library system, again on the condition of some preservation of the house as they had developed it. And now their parlors are like the reading rooms in the downstairs. So it's a really beautiful space. Gardenias about to open up. Y'all, these are gonna stank. They're gonna be great. And then you have a place on St. Charles too called the Columns Hotel. And the Columns is a hotel with a bar and restaurant in the downstairs. And that also is a converted home. A little later than the houses in the Garden District, but it still gets you the atmosphere. We are big rose fans in the neighborhood. You always seen a lot of the climbing roses, but you get many other types too. There are even like competitive rose growers in the Garden District. That's getting a little bit beyond my level of specialization. Oof. Those are looking a little bit rough. If you're here like early in the spring / late in the winter, these guys, this is a Japanese magnolia, they are gorgeous. Before the leaves come out, they are covered in these pale pink flowers and the petals get littered all over the ground, and it's kind of our version of cherry blossoms. This one, y'all, actually, speaking of gardens, there's something across the way that we should check out. So this building is the French consul's residence, which is located in arguably the least French part of the city. But it's got the French flag and the European flag on the front. And then they have their own very unusual sort of garden. Little art installation down here at the end of their fence, titled Nos Jardins, which is Louisiana Creole for our garden. And voila. So the explanation on the plaque is this installation was handcrafted by NOLA students, that's our arts high school in town, under the leadership of a visual arts sophomore. The concrete cast sculptures symbolize France's role in cultivating our multifaceted cultures, identities, and the unique place that we call home. So now you know. Zombies are perennial. And speaking of things that come up out of the ground, we have a ton of road construction going on right now, and normally that's not something I would highlight on a historic tour, but one thing I think is kind of cool about this, well, for one thing, some of y'all have asked us in previous videos, why are the roads so terrible? And you've asked us that specifically in videos of the Garden District, and to that I say, the Garden District has some of the best streets in the city, but underneath them are the old streets built out of blocks of granite. And in order to do this under-street drainage work that we're perpetually having to do, they've actually had to dig all that stuff up. So while normally you don't get a whole lot out of road construction, this time around we get to see some layers peeled back. Here's a house modeled after a Italian palace. And a couple here that really, like if you were to just see a couple houses in the Garden District and kind of get the point, these would be them. So these white picket fences used to be the norm before cast iron came along and really dominated the aesthetic market here. And back behind the fence is the oldest surviving house in the neighborhood. So this is gonna be a place called Toby's Corner. And Toby's Corner is kind of retro. John, I don't know. That's a really good question, whether that's going to go back in. I would imagine not, because further down the street, probably a little beyond what y'all can see. I'm so sorry, Jeannie. Yes, thank you. So it's so they're installing some drainage stuff underground, which is probably going to take up a lot of the space that stuff formerly would have occupied. So that's likely going to be tossed out. So that history will probably be disappearing. Stephen, thank you so much. Euros. Okay, cool. We're from all over. That's a great idea. Actually, so the Halloween decorations in the neighborhood are in slightly short supply. These guys are not as big of decorators as you'd expect. I think just caring for their house and caring for their garden kind of takes it out of them. But certainly doing one about Halloween decorations in general. We had so much fun doing the Mardi Gras decorations before that I think that's going to be an absolute must. So we'll see which parts of town people rise to the standard in. We'll give you whatever's the best. So this house, y'all, Toby's Corner, this is what a lot of older Creole-style houses in the city would look like, and plantations near the city, too. So y'all can maybe see the downstairs is exposed brick, and further up we've got these columns that are plastered and painted over, and the whole downstairs of this is kind of functioning as an above-ground basement. And that area was prepared for water to pass through should a flood come in. And usually it wasn't a space that you lived in. You would have been in the upstairs, and then in the heat of summer, you could have moved your living space into the downstairs to cool off. And you can see, at one time, the main entrance was the second floor, and that off-center door over there, that's going to be a stairway, formerly, coming right down to the center here. Herman, we had a pretty sad crop of Christmas decorations this year. We made a Christmas video that didn't, we had to search far and wide. By the time we got to Mardi Gras, we were pretty excited, but Christmas was a little sad. So hopefully next year, we're gonna have some great stuff to share. And Melanie, thank you. I'm actually not sure on Facebook how we do it, but after the fact, if you don't see the means too, and I really appreciate you thinking of that, when we save this as a video later, there's gonna be down in the description various platforms that we accept tips through, so we will see you there perhaps. And Michael, not quite. It's in that further part of St. Charles. The skeleton house is amazing. It's well worth seeing, and definitely we'll be spending some time with that come Halloween. But it's along the St. Charles streetcar ride, further up in the like 1880s, 1890s housing area. One more thing I want to point out to y'all there is the bowl in the little fountain there, and that is a sugar kettle. That is an industrial tool for refining sugar, which was the cash crop that made so many of these people their fortunes. So not easy to recognize, but in the South, those are all over the place. Thanks, Jeannie. Yeah, that one was a lot of fun to do. Carla, Roby's doing great. Roby's just started giving in-person tours again. If y'all haven't seen him before, y'all, Roby has been doing our Voodoo-connected tours and the Treme, and he was a superstar before all of this video business started. People were asking him by name back when we had never made a video at all. And he and I are actually about to release a series that we did together going up the Mississippi. And so y'all can travel with us a little bit quite soon. Got a last little bit of work to do there. This one, y'all, we can't miss this. So this is today an all-girls private school, the Louise McGee School, and you can see that red awning down there. The school takes up the whole block these days. Oh, I missed a question. Live oaks. Yes, they are. Not everything, but a lot of what you see here is live oaks. That is a live oak that is front and center right now. Those are live oaks over there. That one. They are, yeah, the single most majestic type of life, far and beyond human beings, that exists in South Louisiana, and anywhere in Louisiana. This house, y'all, I'll tell you about it as we go, but just take in the monstrosity that it is. This is a home originally, and the school moved into this in the 20s, and then it switched over to being more buildings than just this. But this was a private home built in 1872 for a guy named Bradish Johnson, who is, I think, one of the most interesting figures out here. So more on him momentarily. Kenneth, yes, so there is no telling what the future involves. As far as giving tours in person, it's going to depend. We might be shooting some videos outside of New Orleans, so I might be traveling when you're here, something like that. We will see. All of this stuff is way, way, way up in the air. But if I'm around, I mean, by all means, get in touch with either me or with the company and ask, and yeah, we will set you up. If not me, I can recommend one of the other great guides with Free Tours by Foot who will take good care of you. And Michael, yes, Michael, those videos are going to be on our YouTube channel in short order. I want to say within a week and a half. We're going to have more about that, y'all. We're doing actually a little bit of a Q&A slash update on our plans pretty soon, Tuesday evening. That's going to be a live stream as well, but a stationary one. And we'll tell you all about a few things that are going on in the near future. Gotcha. Good, Todd. I'm glad that got covered. And, oh, thank you. Thank you, team. Appreciate that. And yes, Roby is a beast. He runs circles around the rest of us. Thank you, Sheila. It is. You know, we've got good material to work with. Here's, y'all, some jasmine. Okay, these are just coming in. So, these tiny little flowers, y'all, they just fill the air for like a solid half-mile radius around the Garden District when it comes time. They're not quite all open yet, but once they do, you just can't get away from it. Nor would you want to if you haven't smelled jasmine before. There's a lot of perfumes and stuff out there with that scent. Celebrity moment across the street, y'all. We gotta pay homage where it's due. This place over here is the longtime home of the Manning clan. Archie, etc. Archie Manning, if you're not a football fan, that's what he does, and too much of his family. So this is a major piece of Saints pilgrimage site. So lots and lots of folks visiting this house. And you can see the fence has suffered somewhat for all of their love. But really sweet people. They are actually quite friendly when we come by. So, yeah, okay, we've got our favorites already. And this house too, like by the time you've seen all the big mansions in the Garden District, it's impressive on its own, but you know, when you've seen enough, you're like, oh, that's cute. Jasmine is amazing. We are on the same page. Hey, Mexico, nice. And y'all are cosmopolitan. I am gonna intrude on somebody's property, y'all, to show you the essential Louisiana iris. These things are the best. We got a bunch of them in our yard, and they are out in force right now. The azaleas are past their season, so you can see the sad remains of those. Okay, so quick little, man, Brazil is represented. Brazil wins today. I have not had the pleasure of night blooming jasmine, so one of these days. My brag about your state is knowing how to pronounce Rio instead of Rio. That's all I'm gonna say. I know, those like velvet irises are the best. So, quick little straight to camera address, y'all, because, okay, I just briefly gotta tell you about Bradish Johnson back there. I think in terms of, we're missing a lot of the Civil War element of this history, which is totally fine because we can do that another time. But this guy back here, he is, so if you've ever had Southern Comfort, one of his plantation homes was on the label for most of its history. The cast iron is a mixture of, the fashion is like mid-19th century, 1840s, 1850s. And the actual physical stuff a lot of times dates from then, but with like segments replaced. So you're probably looking at genuine 19th century, if not all of it, probably at least most of it. So just to give y'all a tiny taste of the kinds of characters who lived here, Bradish Johnson he's really unusual in that most residents of the Garden District were not born in Louisiana, and he was. He inherited some plantations from his father, and he also inherited a distillery in New York. So he was kind of across both places. And he is, besides one of the things behind Southern Comfort, and he also was the owner of the Whitney Plantation, which if you visit plantations in Louisiana, that's one that you might want to go to if slavery is a particular subject of interest for you. And actually, we're including that plantation on the road trip videos that we're doing. So when that series comes out, y'all will see some more about that place, and we'll revisit Bradish Johnson. But he is basically, so he's also, most importantly, one of the reasons why we have consumer protection laws in the United States, because distillery owners back then tended to use their distilleries also as dairies and have a bunch of cows on site that they would feed all the leftover sour mash, this waste product, and they would buy like cheap old sick cows, and they would yield just the worst milk, and they would dilute it with water and fill it with chalk. And you basically have street vendors selling this yellowish goo that stuff would just float to the surface of and calling that milk. And there was a big New York Times expose, it was like 1850s, and they blamed that milk for the death of about 8,000 babies a year, which not provable, but it was one of the very first times that the public was really moved to say, hey, what you're doing is not okay. And we got laws about milk passed then at the same time when you were having like arsenic and lead and all kinds of harmful things in consumer products all the time. So big shift, and thanks to him for that. Lots more to his story. We'll visit him again some other time. As a last thing to share with y'all, so the house across the way actually is a bit of a different style. So over here you can see this kind of splendid monumental scale that some of the houses are designed on, with these two-story columns, actually very much like the first one that we saw. And if you were to visit over to Natchez, Mississippi, which is up the river a ways, you'd see a lot more houses like this sort of design that you can imagine seeing this from the street, it looks really huge, but if you saw this from the Mississippi River, for example, a house that was further away, this would really tell the story extremely well. And so you'd see houses like that. And these guys, besides having this crazy house, oh, and I should say, Natchez is one of our destinations in those road trip videos, so you'll have a chance to check that out soon too. A couple of awesome small towns that you may not have had the good fortune to hear of thus far that are going to be on that tour. So besides having this awesome house and this awesome garden, these guys also are big supporters of preservation work in the city, and they have regularly opened their house up for this holiday homes tour that we do every year. And if you could pick any time to be here, like, I wouldn't necessarily tell you December should be a super high priority, but one of y'all did ask about Christmas decorations, and during that time of year, there's a lot to see. It's not nearly as miserable as some places, and during the winter. And we have this holiday homes tour. So in the third weekend of every December, lots of houses open up and you can walk inside and check them out. And I've gotten to see the inside of this one and several others in the neighborhood that we've seen today. And it really adds something to your feel for the neighborhood. Sheila, so there are whole industries around historic preservation materials. So that ties nicely back to this cast iron thing. So I think actually one really great example, the cast iron originally was not locally produced, and a lot of times today, even the historical scene, you're reaching way back, or you're reaching out way far away from here to find places that make this kind of stuff. Herman, thank you. I really appreciate you tuning in. That's really kind of you. And we are out of flowers to share with you at this point, but suffice to say, my heart is blooming. Thanks to you. The other thing that I would emphasize on here as far as like material for keeping up the houses is you can see this gaslight up here. And gaslights are one of the real atmosphere features of the neighborhood. I'm going to just do a bit of a walk with y'all as we round things up. So these gas lamps are contemporary. You know, if you want to use them today, they've got to be connected to a modern gas system, and that doesn't work with old fixtures. We have another iris. There we go. We do get to give you another flower. That is the default color combo of Louisiana irises, that bluish purple with little bits of yellow. So, Carla, I read a lot, and we have a ton of museums, and I have conversations with people constantly, but I've had years, so anyone could do it if they dedicated the time to it. That's really sweet of you. So if y'all ever do visit the French Quarter and the gaslighting thing is something you find charming, then you can actually visit the place that makes these gaslight fixtures. I think we pointed it out in our 4K walk of the French Quarter, if I remember right. And it is a little business, just a local outfit called Bevelo. And they do coppersmithing, so they make gaslighting fixtures. They will install them in your house using your gas system. And basically, they are there for people who own historic homes to keep up this ambiance that is such a part of the expectation at this point. And, you know, it's good for business. It's good for personal enjoyment. It's helpful on a lot of fronts. Some of them are electric these days, and they also provide that. They have a cute little sign in their foyer that says we also do electric lighting, which most places wouldn't have to tell you that. But yeah, that's an example of the kinds of specialty businesses that pop up for doing that restoration work. Great question. Tell me, thank you. And October's going to be a great month, y'all. Somebody who I chatted with referred to, they had a really funny name for what October was going to be. I'm forgetting it right now, but like we're moving all of our festivals, so it was something much cleverer than like Festageddon. But we are basically taking all the things we would normally be doing in the spring and moving them there, so like Jazz Fest and French Quarter Fest. Colombia, awesome. Well, bienvenidos in advance, and I got to visit your country as well not too long ago, before COVID, of course, but place I think of really fondly. Kathleen, thank you. And man, didn't even get to answer a question for you. So if there's anything you think of, please bring it on in. And let's see if people don't mind us recording their houses. They get used to it. That's all I can say. And thank you, Danny. Nice to see you. We've got the house that you and I have discussed just a little further down the street right now. I think, y'all, based on where things are, I just want to tease what we might do next time. Obviously, we have a pretty splendid house over here. We have another Anne Rice house for our Anne Rice readers. This is the Mayfair Mansion. We have also a very important writer around civil rights who was located there. And then we've got another nonfiction writer's home over here. So we'll be doing stuff connected to writers sometime. We have further on the house where Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, died. So all kinds of things that we can loop in on future conversations about this. I really can't wait to show y'all more because there is a ton to it, whether we get to do that in person or whether we end up doing that in this same live stream format. I think we're going to want to keep this as an option. It's a pretty cool way to be able to go anywhere kind of on the fly and still get a sort of personal experience. So I'm going to be taking advantage of it. Kathy, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I love October here. It's one of the nicest times of year to be around. And so with any luck, I will be here to welcome you. And yes, TV, movie, and film locations. Good idea, free tours by foot. Someone thought of that. And Mayfair Mansion, that's going to be included there. Okay, I know, we've got our Anne Rice fan, so we've got to get you a closer look at that. And there's more flowers. Hello from Argentina. Saludos back at ya. Thank you, Nata. Glad you like what you're seeing. So, guys, after a quick little glimpse of the Mayfair Mansion, and if you don't know this story already, well, you will soon. We'll shoot another video here before too long. We are gonna bring things towards a close, not because I don't want to spend more time with y'all, but because I have a rinky-dink old iPhone 7 and its battery is dying. So what else we got, guys? Any other questions coming to your mind? Hey, from Florida. And yeah, I mean, definitely think of this as a way to do some research because there is nothing like doing it in person. There really is nothing like being out here with the smell of the jasmine and to enjoy the breeze and all of that stuff. So I would definitely say these are a supplement to in-person travel, never a substitute. And thank you, CR. As a first experience, y'all made it pretty fantastic. Thank you, Malia. Y'all have been, Nola Deej, hey! Oh, guys, one of these comments here is a fellow New Orleans video creator who does some excellent drone work and gets out to some pretty cool little ruinous spots out there. So y'all got to check out his channel too. Covers a lot of things that we haven't gotten to. So guys, I'm gonna make the way out before I get awkwardly cut off mid-sentence. A lot of South Americans, yes indeed. And what, we're moving here soon. Reading. Nice. Well, I mean, I don't want to say that there is an absolute right choice, but Uptown is a great place to think about because floods are a thing you want to be protected from. So brilliant getting to spend some time with y'all. So things coming up. Tuesday, we're going to have that next live stream where we'll provide some updates on other things that we're doing with the channel, and y'all can give us some input. Would love to have your thoughts in the comments section of this once it has a comment section. And, you know, contact us directly if you want to have a more prolonged conversation. Y'all have been awesome. Thank you for making this a great first experience, and we'll be back really soon. Thank you. Thanks, Deej. Thanks, Deej. I really appreciate you, and I hope we'll see each other before too long. Catch y'all soon.